going on? I'm Patrick Jaguar, the Cosmic Alchemist, and welcome to my December 2019 astrological forecast. So December, in my opinion, the way I read it, it's going to be a really cool month. December, being the last month, is going to be the springboard into 2020. 2020 is going to be a wild year, transformative year. There's going to be a lot going on. So to me, December, this month, I'm shooting this on December 1st. December is, it's going to be a month that sets the stage for a lot of revelations and just, uncoverings of, dark secrets and truths, and even the beginning of new possibilities that we didn't think were possible before. So we're gonna have a lot coming at us. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna be uncool for some people. It just depends how flexible you are and how ready you are to flow with time and to go with it. The one thing that's always here to stay is change. You can't have things exactly the way you want them forever. So nobody can. So anyway, big thing in December here, the solar eclipse in Sagittarius is really going to set the tone for 2020. And just all kinds of things that we thought impossible, or things that we couldn't even imagine, that most of us couldn't imagine, are going to be reality. Or, in a better way for me to say that is that reality, what has been reality for a long time, is going to become apparent. So, a big thing that all kinds of institutions do, like education, religion, mainstream science, government, they hide reality basically. All those things have sort of turned to religions in and of themselves. Mainstream science, government, academia, it's all, even finance, it's all turned into kind of the way the Catholic Church was, the way the Christian Church was in the Middle Ages. And you had to agree with it to be a member in good standing. And if you disagreed and you were a heretic, they were going to run you out and humiliate you, and you're going to lose your job and your livelihood. So that's the way the mainstream of these institutions work today. You can't innovate, you can't think outside the box, you can't do anything different. And they've been holding the world down for centuries. So they're falling apart. A lot of these institutions are breaking down. And that's really, one of the big controversial things of our time is the Trump presidency. And, he's a godsend in some ways. I see him like Loki in the whole Ragnarok story. He's facilitating this breakdown of government as we've known it for a long time. And the problem with government is that, so many people in government and in academia and in finance and in science and in religion, but particularly government, they've known what's best for other people, and they've gotten very self-righteous, and the whole thing has just gotten huge and bloated and, really obsolete. And he is tearing that down. He's getting people who were detached for a long time from current events to look at them, and and the people who hate him and the people who love him don't see the full story, and they're all getting fake news, no matter if you like Fox or CNN or MSNBC or Breitbart, whatever. Everybody's getting fake news and they're not seeing the full picture, but they're engaged, and in this whole government as we've known it, where basically you're either a member of it or you're not. And if you're not a member, you're just expected to basically kiss ass and just follow it blindly. That's getting torn down. He's not being the smooth Ivy League, television soap opera president that we've had since Kennedy. He's a reality TV guy who just says whatever the hell's on his mind. He doesn't have the smooth Ivy League soap opera delivery of his lines. So, he's like Loki in Ragnarok. He's facilitating this, this twilight of the gods, and bringing the way things have been to an end. So, blessings come in very unlikely packages. So all kinds of things are breaking down right now. Government's breaking down. Finance, as we know it, is going to break down in 2020 and go through some changes. I'll get more into that, in a New Year video. But a lot of things are breaking down. So, and it's a good thing, because new things need to come up in their place. So, and that's a big part of 2020 is destruction and new growth. So, another big part of 2020 that this eclipse is really going to help with is that, darkness in these institutions, government, darkness and corruption, secrets in government, religion, finance, academia, you name it. All of these institutions that pertain to Sagittarius, where this eclipse is happening, will be revealed. So all kinds of dark things are going to spring out of the darkness, things that have been hidden from us. So, Sagittarius, to jog your memories, Sagittarius is about higher knowledge, higher learning, philosophy, religion. It's about worldviews. And Jupiter, being the rule of Sagittarius, Jupiter is, kind of the guru, the spiritual teacher, the high priest, and also kind of a general and a government minister. So government is in part, rolled into Sagittarius. So all kinds of shocking things are going to come out of the dark. And, like I said, it's going to be a month of revelation, and it's going to be a month that kicks off really a year of revelation. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool for me. People who want to stay in the 1990s, they want to stay in the 1980s, they want to, go back to the New Deal days of FDR or the civil rights movement, 1960s. People who just want to stay somewhere back in time and they don't want to move forward, they're going to have a freak out, because, things are going to change and the status quo is done. So it's one of those times, forget what you know so that you'll have room for new things to come in, new beliefs and new realizations and, new information and a new future, rather than trying to keep reliving the past, make room for a new future. Excuse me. So, another cool thing here. So Jupiter is now in Sagittarius, moved in around November 4th, November 7th. Jupiter transited into Sagittarius. So Jupiter and Ketu are now together in Sagittarius. They're going to be together for a little while till further into this winter. So cool thing here is that Jupiter and Ketu haven't been in Sagittarius together since 1889. 1889, that was a time of spiritual awakening for the world. It was the end of the Victorian era. You had the spiritualist movement. You had the Unity Church. You had, Anton Mesmer. Mesmerism was a school of thought that was being taught. You had the Theosophical Society with Helena Blavatsky, Madame Blavatsky. You had Alice Bailey, Thoreau. You had so many things. And, Tesla was about to come onto the scene. So, in 1889, not only did you have this spiritual movement, but, you had spirituality and science coming together. And, if you don't know about Tesla's work, Tesla was a very spiritual sort of a person. He was a brilliant scientist, but he worked from a place of imagination and intuition. He wasn't a pure intellect guy like Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison bragged he did everything wrong 10,000 times before he got it right. Well, that's because he was doing everything with his brain. He was purely intellectual. Tesla, is said to have often done a lot of things right the first time. A lot of very brilliant inventions, because like Einstein, he was intuitive and he was imaginative, and he was very in touch with the spiritual dimension of his life. So we have that ahead of us. We have, a spiritual revolution and a spiritual science. This is really cool. And, when you talk about spiritual science, there's a lot of different applications to this. There's different technologies. We could find ways to get off of fossil fuel, where we use the heartbeat of the earth. The earth puts out an electromagnetic pulse, just like your heart. Human heartbeat can be detected through the waves it puts out, the electromagnetic pulse it puts out, radio waves, if you will, from about 50 or 60 feet. So the heart is very electrically active. Well, the earth is the same way, and the earth puts out a pulse. And people have built vehicles and different machinery that runs on this. So it's a free energy that's just in the air that can be tapped into with the right equipment, the right technology. This is a thing that's been suppressed for a long time, and a lot of people, who worship the whole university science cult, say that it's a conspiracy theory. But people are much more brilliant than that. Do you really think that, the United States, the most innovative, brilliant, productive country in the world, can't do better than a horseless carriage? We're still driving around in horseless carriages. They're just self-parking, and they have all these safety features and Bluetooth stereos, but they're still horseless carriages. There's much better technology than that out there, but it's not allowed to come out, because the auto industry, and especially the oil industry, is so it's more powerful than the government. It is the government, and the Congress and the president and all that. That's just a little show that they put on to keep us from seeing that these companies, these big conglomerates, these multinational corporations really are the government. So they decide what technology can be built and what can't. And people who've built these things have been threatened, and they've been offered massive multi-million-dollar checks or a death sentence. So there's a good possibility for this stuff to come out. And an interesting thing too, back late 1800s, early 1900s, television was an invention that came from this spiritual science. People who invented television were part of groups like the Theosophical Society and the Rosicrucians and Freemasons, and they invented television to try to communicate with spirits. And by their own accounts, they had some success with it, and then they realized the commercial potential there was to sell everybody at least one of them. So that's where TV comes from. You can look into that. I'm not going to go too much into that. So, another thing with this spiritual science is, in the mainstream, people are going to start talking about the power of emotions, the power of thoughts, and the power of your intentions and your expectations. Because, what you think about, your repetitive emotions, where you place your intention, and where you place your expectations is what manifests not only in your personal life, but in the world itself. So, I was talking about politics earlier. If you're disappointed with the whole political scene in the United States and in the world, well, it's because we expect it to be this way. People just expect to cheerlead their favorite party and through this drama, basically this dysfunctional family drama, where it goes back and forth between these two parties, these two dysfunctional parents, and nothing ever gets done. It's just all about cheerleading your side and feeling like a martyr and a hero, or a combination, whenever that's convenient for you. So, it's going to start coming out into the mainstream that what we expect from life and what we think about and what we feel becomes our reality. And some of this stuff has already come out into the mainstream. The Department of the Navy, so the Navy and the Marines combined, it's already come out that they spent $3 to $4 million studying intuition because they read all these after-action reports from combat of different sailors and Marines who were in combat, and they said how intuition and gut feelings and instincts and hunches saved their lives and had saved other people's lives. So they're really taking this stuff seriously. And there are so many scientists, like what's his name, Michio Kaku, Deepak Chopra, also a medical doctor. Scientists like that who have this sort of a spiritual persuasion, they have been talking ad nauseum about how, there's no such thing as solid matter and everything is energy, and your mind affects that energy and manifests the 3D world. These scientists have been trying to tell us for years that there's all this stuff science can't explain, and that our minds are actually the most powerful things in the universe. Not our intellects, not the part of our mind that goes to college and reads all these facts and regurgitates these facts to pass tests and feels like a total smartass, but our mind, our emotions and our whole intangible self, our personality and how we take the world in, and how we get along with people, and how we get along with the world. So they've been telling us that that we're creating reality as we go, but people don't want to listen. You tell this to somebody, and somebody who has an English degree, who took college chemistry, tells you how that's completely impossible. So things are going to ramp up, and there are going to be more of these scientists saying this, in my opinion, and it's going to get interesting. So, the old paradigm, the old worldview, the status quo is going bye-bye. So if that makes you uncomfortable, get prepared, because the world's not going to stop for you. So, the kind of circling back here, Sagittarius, where this eclipse is happening and where a lot of planets are for December, it's all about worldviews. It represents worldviews, and worldviews they're made up of our experiences and how we feel about those experiences, how we react towards them. So you've heard this before, you can't change the past, you can't change your experiences, but you change your attitude about those experiences and how they affected you, and you can change your thoughts and your emotions. And really the way to do this is to center your consciousness in love rather than fear. Those are the two fundamental emotions, love and fear. And right now we live in a fear-based world, and religions and politicians and just worldviews in general appeal to us based on the way that we react to fear. So most people, they fall into two categories. They either, when they're faced with fear, they either get aggressive and they're ready to go out and take whatever it is they need, or they sort of fall into a victim mentality and they band together with other victims and they look for people who are going to save them. And that's why people choose either a right-wing party or a left-wing party, because they fall into one of those categories. So you kind of have the aggressors versus the victims, really. So that's fear-based consciousness, either way. So we need to move into this love-based consciousness where we trust that we're going to have enough, that, we'll be able to meet all of our needs, and that, that we can get along with people. So, fear is a big thing right now, and, that's driving a lot of the censorship that's going on. Everything that people don't, there's a lot of genuine hate speech in the world, but everything that people don't want to deal with, every opinion and every view people don't want to deal with, they just lump that into hate speech, and they want to get it banned right now. So that's all about fear, because once you ban opinions and, you set up some sort of a body that decides what's the truth and what's not, then, you live in complete tyranny. So that's all based on fear. We got to get out of that. And to me, another big theme here for December and for 2020 is, we're gonna see the illusion of control, and our whole world is about, every institution in our world is about controlling other people. And controlling what people think, controlling what people do, controlling what people buy, and controlling, who you spend your life with, who you have sex with, what music you listen to, what you smoke, what you eat, what you drink. And especially the last 2,000 years have been all about control. The Roman Empire was trying to control the world, and they hijacked the original Christianity and they turned it into their own thing. They mixed it with their sun cult, and they created modern Christianity. We don't even really know what original Christianity looked like. So the Romans took the Christian vocabulary and they created this new religion. And to me, it was all about controlling people. It was all about keeping people in their place. The vast majority of the population who, were and are effectively slaves. Slavery still goes on, but, we're allowed to have mortgages and student loans and, go into military and all this stuff. So, for 2,000 years, we've been living under intense control systems. And, that's what Pisces is all about. We've just finished the age of Pisces. So in this December and in 2020, these control systems and really this urge to want to control other people that exists within all of us is going to break down, because we're going to a place of higher consciousness. So, just like I said, I've said it before, that we live in a fear-based world, and fear comes in when you see things you can't control and you feel like you should be able to control them. So, the big ego trap that we've been in for a long time is we think we can control everything in our worlds. And, that's coming to an end, and we're going to see a lot of control systems break down. But a lot of people don't know how to live without those control systems, and they're going to freak out, and they're going to get more extremist. And they're sort of going to go down with the ship when these control systems fall apart. So, very interesting times here. So, another major theme here for December is, and for the first part of 2020, is, where were you in 2001? What was going on in your life in 2001? And I put this question forward because we're circling back to that, because time moves forward, but it also is cyclical. It kind of moves in a spiral. It's not totally cyclical, and it's not totally moving forward. It's more of a spiral, but there's a cyclical nature to it. So basically, based on the positions within the signs of the shadow planets Rahu and Ketu, the eclipse of the moon, the north and south nodes of the moon, we're back to where we were in 2001. So now we have Rahu in Gemini, Ketu in Sagittarius. That's where they were in 2001. And these two shadow planets take 18 years to make a complete orbit. So we're 18 years forward from 2001. And so, we have to ask ourselves, what was going on in your life in 2001? What contracts did you make? What themes were in your life? What situations did you come across? What situations were good for you? What situations were disasters? You know, jog your memory and see what's up, because all that stuff has come back. You know, it's kind of a completion too for situations that you got yourself in back in 2001. You know, we have the opportunity to keep going with those, or to go on to something new, you know, to break the cycle basically. So, you know, when I say contracts, you know, what contracts did you make? You know, what contracts did you make with people in your life, with, you know, with employers, with institutions, you know, with jobs, with business? You know, it's all up for review again. We can either do another 18 years of what we just did, or we can do something new. So it's true for us individually and collectively. So, and in 2001, you know, was your consciousness, was it in fear or was it in love? You know, which of those two emotions was it grounded in? So, you know, the world in 2001, when you had 9/11, it was a fear-based world. It's been a fear-based world for thousands of years. So, you know, not only are Rahu and Ketu back in the same signs they were in 2001, but they're in the same nakshatras. So the nakshatras are the mini constellations that make up the 12 signs, and they basically work behind the scenes. So, you know, right now we have Rahu and Ardra, and that is the nakshatra, the mini constellation of tragic events. It's ruled by Rudra, the storm god, the howling wind, the teardrop. So, you know, it's all about tragic events, you know, storms destroying things. And on February the 12th, Ketu will enter Mula. You know, Ketu is now in Sagittarius, but it'll move to the part of Sagittarius where Mula resides. And so on 9/11, Rahu is in Ardra, Ketu is in Mula. So Mula is the nakshatra of destruction, and it's ruled by Niriti, the god of destruction. And Ketu also happens to be the lord of the nakshatra Mula. So Ketu is in a very strong position here. And Ketu, which is the mystic, the spiritual practitioner that, you know, just wants liberation from this world. You know, Ketu is what's called the moksha karaka. It means the planet of spiritual liberation. It's in a very strong position, and it's going to help us to knock down some old obsolete beliefs and institutions in our world to make way for new ones. So, you know, be prepared for this, because you can either roll with it or you can freak out about it. So, and again, you know, Sagittarius is all about higher learning, philosophy, worldviews, because of Jupiter, it has to do with banking, law, government. So, you know, a lot of these parts of these institutions, or even these institutions themselves, are on the chopping block in a sense. So, and K2's gonna do something. And you know, if you've seen my earlier videos, you've heard me saying how, you know, from this time, and especially in February, there's potential for some crazy, destructive, you know, violent events. That's especially true in February, you know, especially past February 12th, from February 19th to the 23rd. It's a definite possibility. So, you know, be prepared for that. You know, and another big part of this, with, you know, K2 being in not only Sagittarius but in Mula, you know, Sagittarius is kind of the galactic center. The galactic center point is 27 degrees of Sagittarius. You know, and Mula is somewhere down around 10 degrees, but, you know, it's near the galactic center. So, you know, the galactic center is, you know, in a lot of old cultures, they believed that these beings called the Aeons lived at the galactic center, and they were basically the sort of the guiding beings of, you know, our planet. And, you know, they were wise beings that were sort of teachers and tutors for us, and they guided human destiny. that was a big term for the Gnostics. The Gnostics were these kind of really the original version of Christianity that, and the church ended up killing most of these people, or, chasing them into hiding. But they believed that these aeons lived at galactic center, and the ancients believed that, energy came from galactic center that helped us to raise our level of consciousness. So all this activity in Sagittarius is sitting right near the galactic center point. So pretty interesting. So, and one last thing with Mula here is that, not only is Mula a destroyer, not only is it a constellation of destruction, but Mula brings a passionate desire to get to the truth, through investigation. So from a lot of different directions, we have it coming in that, we're going to get revelations and disclosures, and things that have been hidden for a long time are just going to come to the surface. The cat's going to fly out of the bag. And that's happened a lot this year. Jeffrey Epstein thing was huge. It had its 15 minutes, and a lot of people have forgotten about it already, but it's still unfolding. The whole Prince Andrew has been banned from, public duties by the Queen of England. And, pretty recently, the head of the prisons in New York City was getting grilled by the Senate about, all these amazing coincidences that happened when Jeffrey Epstein supposedly killed himself. Within a couple of hours where that happened, the security cameras, magically shorted out, or, malfunctioned or stopped working. So the senators were grilling the head of, the prison bureau or prison department or whatever from New York City. So that's pretty huge. So that story's still going. I think a lot of the Hillary Clinton drama, where she's going after Tulsi Gabbard and saying she's a Russian operative and all this stuff, I think she's trying to throw attention off of the fact that her husband flew on Epstein's plane 26 times, according to the FAA, and that her daughter was friends with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's girlfriend, and she was probably friends with him too. A lot of people are friends with him, not just singling her out, but that story's still rolling. There's more to come still. So, and I just want to take you through a few events in December that are important. Starting the month today, the 1st of December, we have, and for most of this month, let me just double check this, really till the end of the month, so starting today and through most of the month, we have Pluto right at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. This is galactic center point. So galactic center point is where this high vibrational energy that this high vibrational radiation that comes from this giant sun at the center of the galaxy, this is the direction it comes from, and it reaches the earth, and it helps raise our consciousness. So we have Pluto right at the galactic center point. Pluto is the god of the underworld. And, the god of the underworld is not a tormentor or a torturer. The underworld is not, it's not the Christian hell. Hell is, that was a word that comes from, Germanic paganism. And hell was the underworld. And hell was a place of rest and feasting and learning, and you in healing, you learned, you reviewed the life you just lived so that you could go into your next life, wiser and with, the essence of the lessons that you learned in your previous life. So hell or the underworld is not a place of torment. It's a place of learning lessons and healing. So Pluto, the god of the underworld, is right on top of galactic center point. So Pluto is teaching us about all of these things in the world that have been hidden from us, all these things that we've been lied to about. And, another part of the underworld is it's the unconscious mind. So it's the deepest part of the mind. because we have three minds. You have your conscious mind, you have your subconscious, and your unconscious. Your conscious mind is your everyday personality that, you interact with people with. And the subconscious is really like a buffer zone. It's an overlap zone between conscious and unconscious. Your unconscious is about 85-90% of your total self. And you can't readily get to it. It's all the thoughts and feelings you have that you don't even know why you have them, and you make up all kinds of excuses for them, but you don't understand them, truly. So, Pluto is showing us what has been deep down in us, individually and collectively. What is the real story? What has really been going on in our world, and, what things we need to heal. What deep emotions and thoughts and traumas that we really need to heal. So, Pluto, it's in Sagittarius, and it's with a whole group of planets, on the 1st. So you've got Saturn, it's good buddy Saturn at 23 degrees, you got K2 at 15 degrees, Venus at 13, and Jupiter at 5. So Jupiter is the lowest planet in this conjunction, and so basically the lowest planet in a conjunction, the planet of the lowest degree is in charge. So, Jupiter is sort of teaching these different aspects of us, because the planets represent different forces within our minds. So, Jupiter is helping these other planets to revamp our worldview and, the way we see the world, and, our philosophies, and, the way we learn. So, in finance, so many things. So, kind of start the month off with a bang here. And then, moving on, we go on to the 12th. So, it's pretty cool. On the east coast of the United States here, the full moon happens at 12:12 a.m. on December 12th. So the full moon is at 12:12 on 12:12. So magic numbers, 12 is the number of the earth. In Taoism it is said to be the earthly number. It's a number of completion. And there are 12 signs of the zodiac, and Jupiter takes 12 years to complete an orbit. So that's why there are 12 signs. But anyway, so full moon in Taurus, the cold moon at 12:12 on 12:12. So this full moon in Taurus is, Taurus is all about money. It's about finance. Taurus is all about quality. It's all about, the finer things, and really enjoying the finer things in life, the creature comforts and, sensual things, enjoying your home and enjoying nice clothes and, anything of quality. Taurus people, even if they don't have a lot of money, they're particular about how they like things, and they want things that way, or they're going to take steps to get things the way they want them. So, the big thing about Taurus is it's all about value. It's about recognizing value and surrounding yourself with the value. So, the full moon takes place at 25 degrees of Taurus, and, right across from it, you've got Scorpio. So you have the Sun and Mercury in Scorpio. So, big thing when I look at this is that, we will be reevaluating our sense of value with this full moon. And, you've got Mercury in Scorpio across from this full moon in Taurus. And, Scorpio is all about, it's about discernment for one, but then it's about secrets. It's about hidden things. It's about, traumas. It's about, just working through the tough things, in ourselves, within our emotions, within our minds. So, we have this energy of Scorpio, looking at this full moon, and to me it's like, where we want to reevaluate our value system with what we've been through in our minds. We've been through, especially the past 2,000 years have been, really the past 6,000 years have been, it's been a lot of bloody history, and, a lot of, not fun things have happened. So, we're at a point in time, especially with Pluto and all these planets near the galactic center point, to do something new, to get out of the cycle that we've been in for centuries and for thousands of years and do something new. So then, moving on, we have on the 15th of December, we have Venus transiting into Capricorn. So, to me, this Venus in Capricorn is, Capricorn is all about, it's all about institutions, it's all about, career and reputation, and your public persona, but it's also about hierarchy, hierarchy within institutions. And so it's about government, but really any kind of institution, any kind of hierarchical institution. So when you bring Venus here, Venus is creative, Venus is an artist, Venus is a performer, Venus is a diplomat. So, the way I see this, and, Venus is going to be here for, in Capricorn for about a month. So, when I see this, I see, I think definitely this Christmas season, this holiday season, it's going to be optimistic. It's going to be kind of a nice break before we go into 2020, because 2020 is going to be challenging. A recession is going to set in at some point. Some people say it's about, it can set in the spring around April, May. I think it's not going to be official until November 2020. Whoever wins the presidential election, whoever wins it, that election is going to trigger a recession, because either Donald Trump will win, and really I think he'll be sabotaged by the banks, because he's not an insider, he's not a Wall Street insider, and in a lot, and really Wall Street is more Democratic leaning, because the Democrats have a lot of social programs that Wall Street makes money off of, and they want to roll out new ones, like the Green New Deal. Wall Street's going to make huge money off of that, because they're going to lend all the money to get the thing done. So Donald Trump wins, I think he's definitely going to be sabotaged by Wall Street. If a Democrat gets in there, then the investors flip out and they stop investing their money, and you're going to get a recession. So I think it's not till later in 2020. So I think we're going to have a good Christmas. Sales are going to look good. I think before the economy turns down, there's going to be some optimism and things are going to look good. And also, with that full moon in Taurus, right before Venus goes into Capricorn, to me, that's another thing that, the economy is going to be good. The Christmas numbers for retailers are going to look good. And, it's going to be an optimistic Christmas, and we're going to enjoy it. It's going to be a breath before we go into this challenging year of 2020. If you thought 2019 was challenging, but 2020 is going to be more challenging in different ways. So that's my opinion. And what else we have here? Then we have Christmas. So 25th of December. We get two transits. On Christmas, we have Mars moving into Scorpio. We have Mercury going into Sagittarius. So Mars was in Libra, and and the successive sign is Scorpio. So Mars rules Scorpio, and Mars and Scorpio, that definitely lends itself to again, potential for violence, and even really kind of potential for some sneaky and violent things to happen. Because one thing you have here is when Mars moves into Scorpio, its 8th aspect is on Rahu. So Rahu is 8 houses away from Mars, and Mars is looking right at Rahu. So when you put Rahu and Mars together, you kind of get, you get like a gangster, or you get like a kind of like a covert operative, like an intelligence operative, or like a saboteur, something like that. So, and then you have, Rahu is in Gemini. So Gemini is communication. So, you mix that with the violence, but the stealthy violence of Mars and Scorpio, you kind of get, kind of a terrorist kind of a thing going on. So, against potential for some terrorist activity like we saw on Black Friday, which, a friend of mine and I predicted that there would be some terrorist activity on Black Friday. We saw it through remote viewing going on in the United States, but turned out to happen in Europe. So, potential for more of this. Now also, on Christmas, Mercury goes into Sagittarius. So, at this point, there will, on Christmas and the day after, when the eclipse happens, you're going to have 6 planets in Sagittarius. So you kind of have a little bit of a pileup going on. So that's going to be an interesting eclipse. All right, so the last thing I want to touch upon here, we have the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on Boxing Day, so December 26th, 2019. The maximum for this solar eclipse is 12:17 in the AM Eastern Time, East Coast time. So, interesting eclipse, because in Sagittarius, so, if you look, on the, to just left of center, kind of in the middle of the chart there, that diamond that I have circled, that's Sagittarius. So it has quite a few planets in there. It has 7 planets in there during the eclipse. So you've got Pluto up there in the lead at 28 degrees. You've got Saturn 26 degrees, K2 at 14, Jupiter at 11, Moon at 10, Sun at 9, and Mercury at 1. So, when I kind of go right-brained on this, and I kind of go kind of creative, intuitive, I kind of see a highway. And, Pluto is, especially Pluto and Saturn, I mean, they're kind of a package deal, in my opinion, when they're together, because, they sort of, when they're in Sagittarius, they make you, they break down everything you thought to be true, and they break down the status quo and, the prevailing worldview, so that, new beliefs can come in. So, I see Pluto and Saturn kind of as a big rig, and they're up ahead on the highway and they're cruising along. Well, Pluto and Saturn are, have all these planets behind it, and they've got K2 behind it. K2 can be very fundamentalist and very self-righteous, and fundamentalism and extremism and self-righteousness is everywhere. The Democrats are doing it, the Republicans are doing it, every religion, and most movements and social causes are doing it. They think they can change the world by being as judgmental as possible. And K2 in Sagittarius has really been, feeding that. So Pluto and Saturn are looking back, and they're like, no, you're not gonna keep doing this self-righteous judgmental thing. So basically, this big rig of Pluto and Saturn together is gonna jackknife. So all these cars coming up behind it, so K2, Jupiter, Moon, Sun, and Mercury are basically gonna pile up into it. It's gonna be, this like, 6-7 vehicle pileup. So, and bringing up the rear is little Mercury. So, Mercury is like the little, mini Fiat bringing up the rear. That's going to be the last one to run into everyone. So, an interesting thing about Mercury is that Mercury is the messenger of the gods. So, Mercury is friends with every planet. And, Mercury goes to the highest heavens, to the deepest underworld, and it speaks to everyone. And, Mercury doesn't really care who you are. In the mythology, especially in the, the media depictions of mythology, Mercury is kind of a, he's got a little bit of trickster element. He's kind of playful, and he's kind of sarcastic, a little bit of a trickster. He sort of screws with people. Mercury doesn't kiss anyone's ass, none of the planet, no people, and none of the planets in the zodiac, none of these celestial gods. Mercury doesn't kiss anyone's ass. Mercury will talk to anyone. And nobody's below Mercury, nobody's above Mercury. He just goes everywhere and talks to everyone. So it's interesting. So, you get the Lord of the Underworld and then Mercury are kind of the bookends, for this conjunction. So it's like Pluto, which is in the lead, kind of has a packed house, and he's going to speak to all these planets in the house of Sagittarius. And he's got his main man Saturn next to him, and Saturn is like the judge and the enforcer, and Saturn makes you do things the right way and makes you stick to your life path and makes you be your genuine you and doesn't accept anything less and puts obstacles in your path if you're not being genuine with yourself. So, Pluto kind of has his muscles standing next to him, and he kind of has Mercury ushering everyone, into the house. So he can speak and show all of them what it is they need to be dealing with so that the earth, so that consciousness on earth, and so that each of us can raise our consciousness, and ascend and be better versions of ourselves. So it's pretty neat. There's all different ways you can look at this conjunction. You put Saturn and K2 together, they throw out all the old beliefs. They work on cutting the old things down so that, new things can come up in their place. So pretty neat. And again, you have, also on this eclipse day, you have Saturn's 8th aspect on Rahu. So, definitely some potential for some sort of warfare by stealth, some attacks by stealth, terrorism, things like that. Terrorism always happens when people with their beliefs are just at a very fundamentalist, self-righteous, extremist place. And pretty much everyone in the world is like this right now. So, the world responds to our emotions. So when we get very self-righteous and we get very extremist, then there's more terrorism in the world because, like a terrorist, the mainstream of people won't allow other people to have a different opinion. They see it as a crime, a punishable crime. So you've got that going on. And then another interesting thing too is Saturn's 3rd aspect. So Saturn's 3 houses from Neptune and looking at Neptune, and Rahu's 9th aspect is on Neptune. So Neptune is in Aquarius. Aquarius is we the people. It's the mass of people. And Neptune symbolizes and represents delusion. So it's when we delude ourselves. It's when we lie to ourselves and we refuse to see the facts right in front of us. So when you have Neptune in Aquarius, to me that says we the people don't see things clearly. We have ourselves deluded. We allow, people in power to lie to us. So you've got Rahu and Saturn both looking at Neptune and Aquarius. So Saturn is like the judge and the government minister. And, Rahu is like, kind of like the thief. So you sort of have, you have the thief and the judge both looking at Neptune and Aquarius. So to me, this says that, there are 2 forces in the universe right now that are fighting for our hearts and minds. It's kind of like the light side and the dark side fighting for us. You know, and Rahu is not evil. Rahu is not the dark side, but Rahu is a trickster god like Loki. And tricksters show us where we're being egotistical, where we're being self-righteous, where we're full of ourselves. And they tempt us to just fall deeper into our own ego traps. So to me, when you have these two planets, and you have Saturn and Rahu looking at Neptune and Aquarius, you know, the trickster is tempting us to just be more egotistical and more self-righteous and just fall deeper into that. But then Saturn is saying, hey, wait a minute. Stop doing that. You need to be genuine. You need to live your own life. Improve yourself. Let other people believe what they want and do what they want with their lives. Stop trying to be a control freak and regulate other people and, you know, control other people's every little movement and, you know, control where other people get their news and their information, for example. It's a big thing going on right now. So there's definitely a war. There's definitely a war for the people's hearts and minds right now. You know, and it's not that one party is good and one party is evil. But, you know, there's definitely, especially in the United States right now, there is a force for freedom, you know, for the sovereignty of this country. And then there's a whole global corporate conglomerate that, you know, wants to take this country over and, you know, just force us into some collective, you know, like the European Union, which is going down in flames. You know, it's bankrupt, and it's forcing a lot of countries to, you know, forcing people in a lot of countries to do things they don't want to do. And they have no opportunity to go to their governments and, you know, get redress for these grievances. So, you know, really, you know, there's this, you know, our ego trap that Rahu, the trickster, is leading us into is this whole idea that we just need to be part of this mindless hive mind collective that's going to take care of us and make sure we never hear a lie and is always going to tell us the truth and make sure we live in a safe space where we never get our feelings hurt and we never hear hate speech. You know, that's an ego trap because you can't just control everything. So, you know, and Saturn is saying, yeah, you can't control everything in your life, much less the lives of everyone else. So that's the ego trap. The dark side wants us to think that, you know, we need to just control every little aspect of everyone's life. And, you know, the genuineness within ourselves is saying, just live and let live here. So that's your eclipse day, and that's what that's all about. So that's all I've got for you. Thanks for tuning in. I was trying to make this a shorter one, but I guess I'm a man of many words. So definitely get an astrology reading from me in times like this, in all times, but especially in times like this. Your astrology reading is a roadmap for your life, you know, in times like we've always lived in where, you know, people around you have all these bright ideas about who you are and what you should be doing with your life. You need to know who you really are and what you should be really doing, because, you know, that's an ego trap that other people can tell you who you are and what you should be doing with your life. Only you can tell yourself that. So as the astrologer, I don't tell you who you are and what you should be doing. I just pull up your chart and you get a reminder of who you are and what you're here to do. You know, what the Taoists call it your mandate of heaven, you know, which is your destiny. It's what you were put on this earth to do and what special gifts and talents you have to share. So my site is thecosmicalchemist.com. You can book an astrology reading with me. I do rune readings, and I also have some Qigong videos for download. Qigong is it's a meditative practice. It's a body-centered meditative practice. It's great for clearing your mind out and de-stressing and, you know, just getting back to your center. So thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later. Have a good one.